Here's a small lesson on amplitude, period, and phase shift. Now, I'll just briefly explain what each term means right now. So amplitude refers to the distance, the maximum distance from the center line. So in this graph here, this distance from the center line to this peak is your amplitude. This is also your amplitude right here. And wherever the center line is, the maximum distance will always be the amplitude, right here and right here. Now, period is the length required to complete one cycle of a sine curve. So as you can see here, if you start from 0 here, go through your maximum and minimum and coming back to 0, that's one complete cycle here. Another way to compute a cycle is to measure from peak to peak. This is also a period right here. Now, your phase shift is simply just a horizontal shift. Now, another way of looking at it is keeping track of a point and seeing where your new point ends up after the phase shift here. So if I'm starting at this peak right here, and I move here instead at this x coordinate, then I have a phase shift right there. So given any sort of formula that looks like this, or like this, sine or cosine, there's actually a very simple way to find amplitude, period, and phase shift. Now first, given these variables, our amplitude will be the absolute value of A. Again, we only care about the distance between the center line, so we don't care about a positive or negative value. Now our period, the length it takes to complete one cycle, is given by 2 pi over b, the coefficient of x. And the phase shift is given by negative c over b. That's your new starting point. Now, that's the end of the lesson, but if you want to stick around, I'll explain how this came about here. Now, as for phase shift here, like I said before, it's sort of like keeping track of your starting point here. So let's say this is cosine x. And given some phase shift, we have cosine bx plus c. We'll keep the amplitude as 1 here, just for our simplicity. Now, notice that at cosine of 0, we get 1, which explains this point here, 0, 1. However, since we shifted it, that starting point obviously doesn't lie on 0 anymore. It lies on some point here, x. So, to find where that point is, notice that all we really have to do is set the inside of cosine here to 0, and we can find our x coordinate of where that starting point begins. Now we just have to make a simple equation here, bx plus c equals 0, and then again we want to find that x value. So we just simply solve for x here. Bx equals c, and then negative c, divide by b, and you have x is equal to negative c over b.